Stuck. That is exactly how I would describe people's creativity in their own businesses right now. And it's certainly how I felt about my own, for quite some time too. Must use hook, must enable call to action, must find avatar's pain, must find pain, must find pain. Bore off. Seriously, I'm done with it. Just rolling into each day, fighting each battle with the same tools, the same weapons, and the same war strategies as everybody else. I mean, it looks and smells like, to me, a lot like creative suicide. Not being able to think for yourself. And the thing that I've often thought is, are we plugged into a machine that blocks our rhythmic ability to think freely for ourselves? I think we are. Plugged into everybody else's thoughts day and night, slowly but surely evolving into these high responding, emotive sponges, essentially becoming, what we're exposed to. Just waves and waves of what only feels like, to be honest, regurgitated thoughts, not ever really knowing where one person starts and another ends. I mean, you might argue that this has always been the way. 100%. Our environments, our proximity, the people that we spend time with become a part of us. But now, instead of it being your mother, your father, your siblings, your next door neighbours, those actually in physical proximity to you, instead of those people being your superconscious programming, the idol on social media who has the most amount of lemmings following them, they're the people that get to dictate what is going on up here. Don't you ever ask yourself or think, how did I end up in this situation? How did I wound up getting so highly influenced by people that I've never even met in person? When did we actually stop trusting our own instincts and what can actually work? When did we stop valuing all of that and start valuing someone else's opinions, someone else's formulaic positioning, and that is actually more valuable than our own intuition? And when did we start believing that creativity is something that needs to be systemized? I've watched entrepreneurs, friends, people close to me lose their spark and their creativity because they're too busy following someone else's idea about what success is, following someone else's blueprint, too busy implementing strategies that work for someone else with a completely different personality in a different part of the world, with different levels of experience, a different audience, different dreams. Too busy copying instead of creating. And I think that's the saddest part about this, is that they've just unknowingly, unwillingly handed off this sacred and creative part of themselves. When I've spoken to people and asked them about this, they think they're genuinely being smart, they're being strategic. Well, I'm following the best practices, I'm following the path that has already been trodden. But a different perspective on that is, I actually think you're sleepwalking, through your own business, in your own personal life journey, just regurgitating someone else's opinion, someone else's feelings, someone else's voice, and then wondering why it doesn't feel connected, it doesn't feel authentic. And I think there's a fear about risk in putting that creative, edgy, risky, part of yourself out on the line. So instead, of putting all the chips in on you and trusting in self, all the chips get shoved over onto something that has already been proven. This path has already been trodden. I have the thing, I have the ticket to your success. But if you just stop for a second and look up the tree, those that are selling those dedicated, singular ways of doing things, that's not how they got there. They actually trusted their instincts. They were maverick. They put their creativity on the line. I always like to imagine mad scientists, pouring vials into each other and just standing back and with electricity and stuff going on in the background. Yes, those people are probably a little bit misunderstood, but that's how we create evolution inside of industries, by trying things that other people haven't tried before. I firmly believe that your unique edge, the way you are right now, is something that should be amplified, not seen as a bug, in the computer system that needs to be cleaned out like some sort of virus. The way you think differently, the way you hold yourself, the way you operate, that is fundamentally your competitive edge. The way you see the world is your superpower. But I think to be able to harness the superpower, you have to remain unplugged. You have to remain unplugged for long enough to remember actually who you are, rather than being constantly exposed to other people's thoughts, feelings, and ways of doing things. If I were you, unplug for a day. Stop watching this fucking video right now. Turn off the feed. Stop consuming other people's content. Stop listening to other people's strategies and the tools that they use and the way they go to war. And sit and ask, what would I create if I actually wasn't trying to please anybody? What would I say if I actually wasn't worried about the conversion rates or the percentages on the other side of this? What would I build? What would I build if I trusted my own instincts? Maybe that's where the magic is. I know where the magic isn't. It's certainly not in the formulaic, trodden paths of the proven. I think it's in you. The real you. The one who perhaps hasn't been programmed yet. I'll see you in the next one.